Is there anything more fun than buying new art supplies? I think not. At least for me, anyway. As a creatively curious girl, I love a good art supply haul. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I did a video about 10 things you already have around your house to use in mixed media art, but today I'm going to tell you my 10 favorite supplies just in case you are in need of an art haul of your own to, have a little fun. I'm Gina Luker. I'm the girl behind the Shabby Creek Cottage, and around these parts, we make fun art, not fine art. I share tips, tricks, tutorials, and ideas for you to make your home and life a work of art. So if you're new around here, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. If you enjoyed this video and you like what we got going on, make sure that you hit the bells and the buttons and do the YouTube stuff. You know what to do. I'm not going to boss you around, but I am going to tell you my 10 favorite art supplies, and hopefully you'll get inspired to try something new today. So let's get into it. Let's jump into my top 10 favorite supplies for mixed media and for art journaling. In number 10, which is really not in a specific order, is Tim Holtz products. And I have yet to find a Tim Holtz product I did not love. From the distress inks to the oxides to the sprays, I pretty much use these every single day in some variety. I like the crayons. I like even the word art that he sells, and the tabs and the paper dolls and the jewelry line. Basically anything Tim Holtz is good in my book. Number 9 is lightweight spackle. This is stuff I pick up at the Dollar Tree. This is the cheapest thing you're going to find here, honestly, except for maybe the book pages, which we'll get to in a second, that you might can find for free. I mix this with paint. Sometimes I mix it with gesso. I mix it with a lot of different stuff because I love the texture that it gives. This little jar I've had for probably well over a year, maybe close to 2. It's the same jar. You can get hundreds of products out of this little jar because you only need a tiny dab to mix into your paint or paste or whatever you're mixing it with to give you some texture. This is good stuff. If you want and even if you're just painting a vase or a bottle or something, if you mix this with your paint, it will almost give you like a chalk style paint, and the texture of it cannot be beat. So lightweight spackle, so good. Number 8 is books, book pages. Now, these are books that I literally got out of the free bin at the bookstore. I go to my used bookstore here. They always have a bin outside. These are books I literally picked up for free. I was kind of shocked. Some of the pages were falling out of some of them. Some of them, they're not, and I just rip them up anyway. I do not get upset ripping up books. Some of you do. I understand. It's not your thing. But if you find books that are falling apart, mixed media is a great way to use them. I try to find ones that are in maybe they're textbooks, or even if they are in a foreign language. Math books are awesome. I like dictionaries, and I can always find dictionaries and thesauruses in that bin every time. Like, I have a box full of them because I grab them every time I find them. And but it's just the background that it creates, and vintage books are awesome. If you don't like vintage books, you can also, I tucked this in here, you can also find paper packs online. I like to buy them from Stationery Pal. Stationery Pal is an amazing source to get them for really cheap. So if you don't want to tear up old books, they have some that look more like book pages. They always have a really good variety. So books of any variety, sheet music, or even old newspapers and old sewing patterns. Oh, those are awesome too. Magazines, whatever you got. Yeah, book pages, my favorite thing to put in mixed media art. Number 7, to put down said book pages, or to help smooth out and if you're talking about like those crayons from Tim Holtz, this will help to, with a little bit of this on a paintbrush, you can smooth those things out, and it makes other mediums more fluid, or it will glue down pages. So this is one of the most used things in my arsenal, honestly. I use it to seal stuff. I use it to glue things down as an adhesive. I use it to manipulate different mediums like inks or even paints. You can mix it with paint. You can do so much with it. This is almost like the jack of all trades when it comes to mixed media. Before you can put any of that stuff down, you are going to need gesso. And gesso comes in white and it also comes in black. I think you can also get it in clear. I've not used the clear. However, I do use both the white. Both of these are white and this one is black. The only reason I have two is because I'm about to go on a trip and I needed a smaller container that would fit in my art case better. I'm going to show you my art studio on the go pretty soon in another video. But this one is the store brand from Joann's. This is Liquitex. I cannot tell you that this one works any better than this one, honestly. The only reason I bought this was because it was the smaller version that was easier for me to take on a road trip, because even though I'm on a road trip, I'm still gonna do my art every day. So the only other thing that I will tell you is I like this black gesso from Finabair. I think that's how you say it, from Art Basics. This is really, really good stuff. Prima Marketing, it's the same thing. You can look up Prima Black Gesso Finabair online and find it. It's a really small tube, but a little bit goes a long way. And I use this a lot of times instead of paste whenever I use transfers, because it doesn't activate with water like chalk paste does. So I can get a really pretty print and I can layer on top of it. So this is a page that was part of a journal. This is actually my art journal that I'm currently working on. And it's just a journal that I have used to keep notes and keep track of ideas. And then as I've finished those ideas, I go back and I use a journal. I mean, it's a beautiful journal. It really, truly is. And so normally I would just use it as a notebook. And then once it was done, I would throw it on a shelf or maybe even in the garbage. However, you can reuse those old journals that you have half written in by turning them into art journals. And if you gesso the pages, you can get effects like this. If you don't gesso the pages, it doesn't adhere as well. Like these stickers keep peeling up. They wouldn't do this as much if I had gesso. This effect, you wouldn't be able to get that unless you had gesso. So gesso seals the paper so things don't bleed into it, and you can get some really great texture off of it, but also it will help all of your other products to adhere better to your pages. So gesso, good stuff. Just like the Finabair gesso, I have also found that I like a ton of her products. If you don't follow her on Instagram, you totally should, or even on YouTube. Beautiful, beautiful channel. But the gloss gel is really good. The texture paste is awesome. It has like sand in it. I would open it up, but it would make a mess. It has white sand in it, so you get some gorgeous texture for your mixed media art. The modeling paste works very similar to acrylic mediums like modeling paste. It's the same thing basically. I tend to find that I do like the Liquitex brand of this better, but this is still really good. One of the things that I really like from her are these kits that you get that are effects kits. This one is a rust effect. She also has, I think, a patina effect for like that makes it look like copper with like teal and copper and rusty kind of vibes. If you layer the three of these properly, you will get a rust effect, and it is beautiful. I'll show you how to use this in a project soon, but I love her effects kits. They're really, really beautiful. She also has awesome silicone molds for doing paper clay or even resin casting. Beautiful, beautiful things. So Finabair products are more products that I use pretty consistently whenever I'm making art. Okay, so I think we're down to 4 at this point, and paint is something that also I use a ton of. I have found through the years that while I started with this kind of paint that you find at the craft store, it works just fine, especially if you're going to mix it with like the spackling compound It works great, except for it's kind of runny and it's hard to control, and the pigment isn't always the greatest. So in the last probably year and a half or so, I started investing in higher quality acrylic paints, more artist quality. And these are the brands that I have found that I really like a lot. I can't tell you that I like one any more than I do the others, but I like Winsor & Newton. I also like their watercolor line. By the way, you can get watercolor tubes. That's another video. But these paints are really, really good. I buy the big containers of black and white because I go through a lot of it. And then I buy smaller containers of very specific colors that I like. I have a lot of blues and greens and pinks because that's my color palette. So I do want to make one last note about this. These paints go on sale pretty often at craft stores. And even the kits, if you can find coupons, are not typically excluded. So even if you can't find a sale, wait for a sale. It always comes around. I know the basics line, that's a little bit cheaper, but it's still good quality. The Liquitex Golden and Winsor, you can find them all on sale if you wait long enough, or you can use coupons to get them on a good deal. I don't recommend buying big kits because you're paying for colors you might not ever use. However, buy individuals, but buy them on sale or buy them with a coupon. So number 3, we are going to dive into my favorite tool. And besides basics like brushes, the only other tool I might recommend for mixed media art is palette knives. You can find these at the craft store pretty inexpensively. You can also buy them online pretty inexpensively. They sell them for crazy amounts of money. Mine are cheap sets because honestly, I am not... We make fun art, not fine art, so I can get away with cheap sets. In the beginning, I highly recommend just buying cheap sets because I don't want you to go and invest a lot in palette knives and then you decide you hate them. I like them for a few different reasons. Number one, I like the texture that they give. I also like that I can hold them up off of my art piece a little so I'm not hitting things and smudging them. I'm going to talk about transfers in a minute, but when I use transfers, if I use a squeegee, let me grab a squeegee. If I were to use a squeegee to do the transfer, sometimes when I press down, it gives too much pressure and it can make it bleed. If I use a palette knife, it glides it over it, and you really can't get too much pressure because it won't allow you to put more pressure than it actually needs. So palette knives, don't be intimidated by these guys. I bought my first set and I didn't use it for a year. I actually bought them originally to do palette knife paintings with. I never could figure that out. I might try again one day, but I have found that to use these in mixed media is the easiest way to do it for me. And it's really just fun. It feels good in your hand. It creates great texture. I highly recommend palette knives. My next favorite supply might shock some of you, and that is washi tape. I love washi tape in all shapes and sizes, honestly. I recently pared down my collection because I had so much and I wanted to try to keep it in this little bin. This is a Tim Holtz version. It's not really washi tape. It's more of a fabric-y tape, but I keep it in here. But from different colors to sizes to patterns, I like it for a bunch of different reasons. Number one, it does help hold things. Number two, you can use it to create interesting textures by wrinkling it up as you go to create some really neat texture there. It's great in journaling to hold things in, but it won't hold them in too permanently. However, if you use a little matte medium to put under it and then put your washi tape down and then matte medium over it, basically like decoupages it in and seals it in to make it more permanent. You can just do so much with these. But you can also get ones that look like stamps. Like, look at this one. It looks like postage stamps, and this is a mushroom stamp, and it peels off. They have tons of different varieties, and between the amount of uses, the amount of types, and the amount of styles that you can find. Washi tape is something that is a really fun thing that I look for anytime I go to a stationery supply store or an art supply store. And I saved my favorite for last. I absolutely love chalk couture. It's exactly why I sell it. I love the differences in patterns that you can get, because like these intricate patterns you cannot get with a stencil. I like that they will stay put because they're sticky and they're washable and reusable. Just wash them as soon as you peel it up, go wash it, let your project dry, and then you can come back and put it on the backing paper and use it over and over and over again. At least a dozen times, even more if you take care of them and you clean them between each use. Even if they get stained, like this one is stained, but it doesn't affect the transfer itself. It doesn't affect the print that you're gonna make with it. I love using these for the patterns, for the words. I love using them in backgrounds like this. Like this is, this same transfer. It's the same transfer. I use this actual transfer to do this, and it's almost hidden, but that little element does create a little more drama. I like the backgrounds really specifically to do underneath. Like if you put this down first and then you color wash on top of it, it kind of creates those different layers and it can peek through. We have some really big transfers up to 18 by 24. So if you wanted to go really big, you can get some really, really big ones. Or we have these tiny little small ones. And if you want to learn more about how to use these, I have more videos on my channel. But that's it. That's my 10 favorite supplies. Oh, I did want to mention, this chalk paste is removable. So if you use it on like a sealed solid surface, it'll wipe off with water. So a lot of times instead of using this, like on here, this is actually acrylic paint that I use through the transfer with a palette knife. That way I can wash off the acrylic paint immediately. Like as soon as you peel it up, go wash it and then let it dry and put it back on the backing paper so that you can use the next time, right? But if this is my top layer, like if this was gonna be on the very top, I would use the chalk paste because it doesn't have to be sealed. It'll be fine as long as it doesn't get wet. If it does get wet though, it will smear. So I use this a lot in a lot of my projects. However, it's not the only medium that I use to put through the transfer. But the transfers, these are absolutely my favorite part, because I'm telling you, you just can't get this detail with traditional stencils, no matter how hard they try. And yeah, that's it. Okay, so if you have more questions or if you want to learn more about how the products that I use in my mixed media art, you can join me for free at the School of Fun Art. You can find the link in the description of this video, and I will see you in another project soon. Thanks so much for watching. All right.
Good job.
Thanks. I feel like I